The rain was falling heavily one evening at a girls-only school called Prestige School for Girls. Among the students was a girl named Knw, who was brutally beaten to the ground in the rain by a group of bullies who ran away after knocking her out. Still lying in the rain, Knw was found by another student who alerted the school authorities. The bullies were interrogated by the police, but they showed no remorse for their actions and bluntly denied any involvement in the incident. 2 weeks earlier, Knw had boarded the bus to school, sitting with her only best friend, Jum. Behind them were two of the most popular girls in school, Fade and Tom. Fade, the leader of the group, was feared by everyone. Her father was a powerful man with influence over the school principal, and as a result, Fade never faced consequences for her actions. On the bus, Fade called Knw a nerd and mocked the shape of her body. Knw chose to ignore her and continued chatting with Jum. Fade, who had a secret boyfriend disapproved by her parents, planned to visit him instead of going to school. To distract everyone, she spilled tea on Jum before secretly getting off the bus. Knw saw her running away but didn't think much of it. Jum tried to wash the stain off her shirt at school, but it wouldn't come out. It wasn't the first time Jum had been bullied. Fade, Tom, and their third friend, Fatima, were known for causing trouble. Fade, on her mission to meet her boyfriend, found a public restroom and changed into revealing clothes. This was the first time she would meet him physically after 3 months of online communication. At the restaurant where they agreed to meet, Fade was nervous that someone might recognize her. Back at school, Mr. Oiden, the head teacher, introduced a new student named Fun to the class. Fun had a unique sense of style and attitude that was new to the girls. After school, when the bus was supposed to drop the girls off at home, Fade snuck back in unnoticed and told Fun everything about her date. Unknown to them, Jum started eavesdropping and overheard that Fade planned to sneak out again on Tuesday. Later that evening, Knw and her family were having dinner. Her father was fun-loving, while her mother was stricter, but both loved Knw and her younger brother dearly. The following day during their extracurricular activities class, the girls were playing basketball. Knw and Fade were on the same team, but Fade refused to pass the ball to Knw. When urged by the coordinating teacher to release the ball, Fade threw it at Knw. The teacher scolded Fade, but she continued to mock Knw. Despite Fade's disrespect, she was allowed to continue playing with no consequences. Later in the changing room, Fade noticed Knw crying and decided to bump into her, accusing her of inappropriate behavior. Fade, who witnessed the encounter, knew Fade was at fault but chose not to speak up. Eventually, Fade manipulated everyone into believing Knw was the aggressor. The girls called Knw a freak, making her cry over something that wasn't her fault. After the incident, Knw was eager to take revenge. The opportunity arose when Jum informed her of Fade's plan to sneak out again. Knw immediately informed the school principal, who summoned Fade to the office. Although anyone else would have been expelled for skipping school, the principal let Fade off with only a warning, explaining that she didn't want to anger Fade's father. Even Mr. Oiden was surprised by this leniency. The bullies, suspecting someone had informed on Fade, decided to threaten the school janitor to find out who it was, or risk losing his job. Fade, Tom, and Fatima were furious and determined to teach the informant a lesson. By the end of the day, they discovered it was Knw. Enraged by her audacity, they called her to the back of the school in the rain and beat her up mercilessly. Despite Knw's pleas for help, they continued until she was knocked out, then ran away before anyone could catch them. Moments later, Fun found Knw unconscious and alerted the school authorities. The police were called, and the bullies were interrogated again. They smugly claimed innocence and even mocked Knw for her suffering. Fun, who had witnessed the beating but was too scared to intervene, cried as she saw the bullies making light of the situation. Confronted by Tom, Fun was threatened with expulsion if she revealed what she had seen, so she remained silent. A few days later, an assembly was held at the school to find out who the bullies were. Knw was asked to tell the truth, but she was too scared to speak and claimed her memory was blurry. The principal was relieved that Fade was not in trouble, and the police gave students a chance to confess if they knew anything. Surprisingly, Fade confessed to pushing Knw but claimed it was in self-defense because Knw had touched her inappropriately. Despite evidence to the contrary, no one believed Knw's version of events. Fun felt guilty but was too afraid to speak up. The school officials sided with Fade and suspended Knw for 2 weeks for inappropriate behavior, while Fade received only a warning. Even Knw's own mother believed Fade's lies and thought her daughter was a freak. Devastated, Knw felt lower than ever, but her sadness soon turned to frustration and anger. Things worsened when Jum stopped responding to her texts and completely cut off communication. 2 weeks later, Fade and her group walked into school with such pride that they didn't care about Knw's potential exposure of the truth, knowing no one would believe her. During the school assembly, students were informed about a national football team recruitment, where only 2 girls would be selected. Fatima wanted to be included, but Fade and Tom dismissed her, claiming no one could compete with them. This caused a rift in their friendship. Later that week, Knw confronted Jum about not supporting her during her suspension and learned that Jum had believed Fade's story because she hadn't been present at the scene. Heartbroken by her friend's betrayal, Knw revealed her revenge plan to Jum. When Fun found out Knw had shared the plan with Jum, she was furious. Fun feared that if the information reached the school authorities, she would be expelled and unable to enroll in another school. This led to a falling out between Knw and Fun, with Fun withdrawing her support from the plan. The day of the festival arrived, and the school was packed with students. Knw and Jum were getting ready when Knw received a text from Yumi, their neighbor and friend, inviting her to the festival. Meanwhile, Fade and Tom were excited about their boyfriends attending the event. Fade took a revealing picture of herself to send to her boyfriend, while Fatima, more reserved, warned them about the risks of sending such photos. Fatima was mocked by Fade and Tom, who thought she was prudish. To prove herself, Fatima shared that she had been talking to a guy on Facebook, though he had few pictures of himself. Jum emerged from the bathroom looking beautiful, and the other girls were overly nice to her. Fatima offered to help remove a stain from Jum's jeans but instead applied red nail polish, taking a picture and posting it online to embarrass Jum. Humiliated, Jum ran away crying. Knw approached her, and after reconciling, shared her revenge plan to sabotage Fade and her group. When Fun found out that Knw had shared their plan with Jum, she was upset and worried about the consequences. Fun felt Jum couldn't be trusted and withdrew from the plan. Later that day, Fun approached Knw and Jum, agreeing to help with the plan once more, despite her reservations about Jum. The plan involved using a fake secret boyfriend to get Fatima into trouble. With Fade and Tom distracted by their boyfriends, Fatima would be alone. At the festival, Knw was approached by Yumi, who tried to talk but ended up breaking off their friendship due to Knw's preoccupation with the plan. Meanwhile, Fade and Tom were in a private area with their boyfriends, leaving Fatima alone. Knw texted Fatima as the fake guy and kept her occupied. When Fatima went to bring food and drinks to her friends, Jum poured them on her to keep her distracted longer. Fun informed Mr. Oiden about Fade and Tom's behavior, causing them to flee when they saw him approaching. Everything seemed to go according to Knw's plan. When Fatima returned to find her friends had ditched her, she was furious. Knw sent her a fake picture of a guy and asked for a picture of Fatima without her hijab. Fatima, believing the request came from her secret boyfriend, sent the picture, which included a link granting Knw access to her social media. Knw and her group uploaded the picture to Facebook, causing widespread embarrassment for Fatima, who had a panic attack upon seeing the comments. The next day, Fatima's mother withdrew her from the school due to their religious values. Mr. Oiden informed the class of Fatima's departure, which displeased Fade and Tom. They threatened Fatima's fake boyfriend but received no sympathy from Knw, who felt no regret for what had happened. Fun, who had initially been conflicted, was now determined to get revenge on the bullies. Later, she received a notification that Tomiwa, Tom's boyfriend, had followed her on Instagram. Despite Tom's threat, Fun refused to unfollow him, resulting in her phone being shattered. During the extracurricular activities period, the national football team results were announced. To everyone's surprise, Knw was selected instead of Fade, who felt entitled to the spot. In retaliation, Fade and her friends targeted Knw's personal space, vandalizing her locker. However, Knw was determined to succeed despite the obstacles. The story concludes with Knw and Fun leaving the school, having grown from their experiences.